So you said you were taking care of military personnel and their families.
Yes. So it truly is a mix, because let's say that if I were to get injured and needed to be seen in our clinic, as an officer or as a basic trainee, you make an appointment just like you'd make an appointment at your family care office. You call. But the difference is that we would prioritize the active duty military members. So if they needed to be seen, we had a certain amount of triage spots that we were going to work them in same day. But primarily we were seeing active duty military. That was probably about 75% of my panel for me as the PA. And I saw a lot of retired military members who chose to get their care at our base. So treating high blood pressure, learning how to work up and rule out certain cardiovascular issues, and understanding when it's time to refer them to a specialist.
Were you guys receiving emergencies, or is that something completely separate?
So any given case that we thought was an emergency, we would refer out to the local hospital, to the emergency department. We provided very basic emergent needs, but anything that was outside of our ability to take care of on base, we would refer out. But we used the local hospital systems for true emergencies because we weren't equipped in our medical facility to take care of that. I think the point is that, it's not that it's something so special and exciting like there's one event. To me, it was very fulfilling to be able to take care of people who were sacrificing and serving our country and their family members, because from everything in my knowledge of military medicine, once I was in, it was completely transformed. And what was good about it is that if you're treating someone, you are telling them what to do, and you could expect compliance. There was no non-compliance with what we were telling them to do and how to take care of themselves. So that part of it was, different than what you see in just trying to get a patient to listen to you and do what, you're clearly trying to get them to do what's best for them in terms of their health and treating their medical problems. But as an officer, you're giving an order when you provide care. So that's different. But military medicine, that level of trust was a high responsibility and a high calling too, because they trusted you. They trusted you with their care, with their kids, with their family, and it is very rewarding in that way. But the day-to-day is not much different than civilian medicine.
I wanted to ask you, how many military medical personnel were women? Did you face any challenges being a woman?
So I would say it was, from what I remember, it was pretty much even in terms of the actual professionals. So like in terms of the spread of doctors, nurses, and PAs or nurse practitioners is probably pretty much even. What was fascinating to me too was to see how a lot of the nurses can move up in the military positions into administrative roles. And actually the head of our medical unit was a female. She was the head physician's boss, and she kind of was the officer manager. Now above her there's always an order of what the leadership is. The chief medical officer was, interestingly enough, someone who I ended up going to church with during my time down there too, which was a fascinating turn of events. But there were, I think, 4 men and 2 women at the very top. But you did get to see women in these leadership roles working alongside of the men. But I would say the basic trainees, a lot of them were young men.
I want to ask you what it was like being a newlywed during that time.
So I guess one of the reasons I became a PA was I thought that it could afford a good work-life balance. What I would say about the military is that a lot is expected of you, and you don't just have one job, but you have 2 jobs. You're a PA, but you're also a military officer. And having 2 new jobs and being a newlywed, I found to be very challenging to have a good work-life balance. And so, when you're newly married, you're learning how to live and have life alongside another human being. And so it did definitely afford its own challenges, because at the end of the day, the same way that our patients afforded trust in us and they did what we told them to do, I pretty much was ordered and commanded. My schedule was commanded by the military. But it made me that much more grateful and thankful for the time away from that and the time that I got to spend with my husband.
So the schedule that you were commanded, if you were sick, could you get a sick day?
Yes, okay. You can get a sick day. So there's sick sick leave, there's, you file for your vacation, there is time off. So you need to be strategic about all such things. But just because I was an officer didn't mean that I could do whatever I want or command my schedule. I was very much commanded by those above me. It's very orderly, and in a way, I was able to excel in that structure.
So what was your total time in the military?
3 years.
3 years. And this is like a simple question, but did you like your time in the military?
I did. It's some of the most fulfilling PA work, again, that I've ever been able to do, and I can definitely see how it trained me well for the stage in life that I'm in now. And then also just understanding what sacrifices military service members make. And if I had thought that I could be the kind of mother and wife that I wanted to be as well as PA, then I would have probably stayed in. But I didn't see that the rigors of that type of schedule would fit with what I hoped life as a wife and mother would be someday. But I value that time that I got, and I'm very thankful for those years of service. And even though it's somewhat bittersweet to think back on it, I'm very grateful. And for anyone who feels a call to serve and has the training and is in a stage in their life where they can be 100% committed to that, I think it's a good option for them to take. But it is difficult to find a family-work balance unless you're able to do that within the structure of what schedule is going to be put ahead of you.
So what made you decide to end up leaving the military?
So when you join the military, you're actually signing on for a specific time commitment. And so the question for me was, can I stay in, or do I go ahead and get out and transition out after my 3 years? And so I wanted to be a mother, and I didn't want to have to, spend so many hours of my day away from a kid. For me, I wasn't looking to do that. And so I recognized that as my husband and I were going to transition out and hopefully start a family, that civilian PA job would afford me a better ability to have that balance as a mom and as a PA, and not have to give up one for the other completely.
So then you transition out of the military. How did you end up back in New Jersey?
Yeah, so that's a good question. So my husband was going to be starting a graduate program at the University of Virginia, and as I was transitioning out, I just started to apply for jobs at the university. I knew that they had a prestigious orthopedic department there, and so fortunately I was able to get my first orthopedic job at the University of Virginia, Department of Orthopedic Surgery, in their total joints program. So in 2012 was when I started my orthopedic career as a PA at the University of Virginia. And during my husband's educational years there, I worked with one of the total joints surgeons, Dr. Qui-Gon Quay, and Dr. Thomas Brown and Dr. James Brown were there at the time as well. Very, very good physicians, able to learn a lot there during my time.
So you were doing exclusively total joints?
I was doing exclusively total joints. So, and coming out of the militaries with the rigors of that schedule made this job look like a dream because I was given, 2 days in the office, 2 days in the OR, with a half day of doing just an injection clinic where we're giving everybody their injections who might be waiting for surgery or who are not good surgical candidates, and half a day of administrative time to help with all the other parts of the job that come with being any type of surgical PA. Just helping with the paperwork and stuff. But so that was a dream position for me, being able to land that. But how we ended up back in New Jersey, when my husband finished graduate school, he was applying in Virginia because I love my job. He had spent his undergrad time in Virginia, so we thought, hey, this is a good opportunity to live between both our families, him being from New Jersey, me from North Carolina. And he at first was given a position right outside of D.C. in Arlington with Price Waterhouse. He works in finance, and at the last minute they said, we need some new associates in the New York City office. So I said, that's the beauty of being a PA. I knew a lot of the people that I had graduated with were still local to the area and working, and I thought, what, I can probably find a job anywhere that I want to go. It's not going to be as difficult for me, so we moved back. And the very interesting way that I ended up at Tri-County Orthopedics, again, what I believe is providential is one of the PAs that I graduated school with at the time was working for Dr. Montgomery in a PA here at the office. And I ran into him in Jersey City one random evening at dinner. And he was like, Cameron, what do you do? And I said, well, I had just had our first son. I was about 2 months into being a mother. I was taking some time off. And he told me about this walk-in clinic that Tri-County had started because I told him, I don't think I'm ready to go back full-time yet, but I do want to get back in and do some PA work. And so the first job I took at Tri-County was helping out in our walk-in clinic.
So your first PA job back in New Jersey was with us?
Yes, of course. I've been here since. So I had the 3 years of total joints experience being in the OR and being in the office, being introduced to just orthopedic surgical care in general, because even too importantly enough, down at UVA, they put their PAs in very specific departments. And so, we had hand PAs, we had back PAs, we had foot PAs, and we had trauma PAs, and we had pediatric orthopedic PAs, and the joints PAs. And so that was primarily my training there. So when I got wind of the position to help in an orthopedic walk-in clinic, I thought that would add to my overall orthopedic knowledge to serve in that way and learn how to take care of various orthopedic problems, also being afforded the chance to work and be a mom. So
what was that schedule like?
So to start was very simple for me, because for me, I thought, I worked real hard to become a PA. I kind of thought that I would just transition to taking a little bit of time off and then just getting right back in. But the opportunity that landed in my lap with being in the walk-in clinic was that I could sign up for as many or little shifts as needed. And the primary need at the time was for Saturdays. So I had an infant at home. So I was able to come in, learn the job, and work the Saturday office hours, which my colleagues really liked because after them working their full week, that wasn't a shift that many people wanted to take. So it was great for me to be able to fill that role. And for about 7 or 8 years of my 10 years here so far, that's what I did. Outside of, at first, I could pick up some of the weekday clinic shifts if I wanted to work a little more. And
I started also a mom.
Yes,
which
I
is
was also a
full-time
mom.
job. And
Yes.
now you have 3 boys, right?
Yes. So the first year of my first son's life, I would say that I was able to keep my license active by just working in that Saturday clinic. It was great. And of course, I did a lot of reading on the side, but that way I could be primarily at home with him and not have to feel like I'm neglecting those very formidable, times in him being an infant. But as he got older and as more kids came, I continued to transition in my role here. So I would come into the office at first and would see some post-op patients for Dr. Epstein. I picked up a few more walk-in clinic shifts here or there, and for the first 7 or 8 years of my working here, that's what I did. But because I was working in the walk-in clinic and triaging acute orthopedic problems, I had to know what every other doctor in the practice did. I had to know, who can I schedule this follow-up appointment with? Who sees this? But I'm a people person, so there were some days where I would just try to go and talk and meet the physicians. I was here during the walk-in clinics 4 to 7. So sometimes I could catch different physicians that were in the office on different days to discuss a case with them. That's how I would learn. I would follow up with them and say, hey, this case I referred to you, what ended up happening with this patient? Because that was the only part of it, since I wasn't following them for the long run. That was one way that I would learn. Is, okay, did this patient really have an ACL tear? What did their MRI show? Because if I just wanted to do the bare minimum, then I could leave it at that. But that's how you really learn. Am I being a good diagnostician? Am I being a good clinician? What ends up happening with the care after I've handed it off to someone else? But also just meeting the physicians and learning what they do.
Yeah. And we could do a whole episode on what it's like to do the walk-in clinic, I feel like, because it can be really crazy. It can be more slow, but for the most part, it's pretty crazy. So now what is your role at Tri-County Orthopedics?
Yes. So my youngest son started kindergarten last year, and my hope was always to come back part-time or more full-time once all of my kids were in school. And so I now work primarily for Dr. Montgomery, who's a fellowship-trained sports medicine and hand and upper extremity specialist. My good friend in PA school, Chi, was his PA before me, and then there was Nicole. So I had gotten to know Dr. Montgomery a little bit more so than some of the other physicians, just because of the clinical space that we do the walk-in clinic out of. He happened happens to work out of the similar space during one of the days that I was covering the clinic. So I'd gotten to know him, knew a little bit about his practice, and thought that it would be a good fit to serve as his PA. And his practice is very busy. I knew that his patients really like the care that he provides and trust him, and he was looking for a PA to be able to help in the office and some in the OR and afford me the hours to give me the flexibility to still continue to be a mom, but to be a PA here in the office.
Yeah.
And so I've been doing this now for close to 2 years, and it's a dream job.
That's awesome.
With experience comes the affordability of being able to be a little bit more flexible, right? Because you're doing your job, you know how to take care of patients, you know how the office flows and the specialty that you're working. So pretty much my day-to-day now when I'm in the office is I get here, I hustle, I work hard, I see patients during the school hours, and some of the days I get done in time to go pick up my kids from school. You know, what more could you ask for?
That's perfect.
Yes, and then I get to spend a couple days in the OR. But also, I think my position is unique in that being somewhat part-time gives me the flexibility for my colleagues. If someone needs help in the OR, they just need someone to cover them in some way that they know I'm available and they can ask. And also to continue to be a part of our providers that cover the walk-in clinic, which I actually enjoy doing. I think it's a nice service that we're able to provide so that instead of going to the emergency room for an ankle sprain or just a general medical urgent care, you can come and get orthopedic specific care and a proper follow-up quickly based on what the need is.
Is there something the military taught you specifically that shows up in the OR or in seeing patients?
Orderliness. Orderliness is what I take into my day-to-day job from the military, outside of being taught that as a kid. But I think that it's very important to have orderliness and composure, especially in the OR, where it can be a very intense environment at times and a very relaxed environment at times, and being able to have the same degree of orderliness and composure, whatever may be going on with a specific case.
Right. What is one quality you think every PA needs to have?
Hustle. I think you have to hustle. In the day and age that we live in now, I think you have to have the mentality of hustle, because the job is going to demand a lot from you at times, and then it may be slowing down at times. But you got to be willing to hustle, because at the end of the day, we're caring for people's health. People's health is, at the end of the day, one of the most important things to them. And you don't take a break from caring for people the best way that you can. Some days will be 9 to 5, but most days will be 7 to 3, and then 4 to 6, and then maybe 7:30 when there's a patient that needs you. The care leaves the office, but also you can still have the care leave the office and set appropriate boundaries for yourself and your family and balance it all out. And that's one of the things that I've learned how to do now, being at the office more and understanding how to know what requires your attention at any given time and what can wait for tomorrow. But when something needs to be done that day or in that evening hour, taking the time to do it, because it's what's best for the patient. It's always what's best for the patient.
All right, last question for today. Is there something you miss about the military?
I actually miss the orderliness. There's a sigh of relief that comes with being told what to do, knowing what's expected of you, and that there's not really going to be anything outside of that. And that also, there were no surprises in the schedule in terms of what's going to happen. You go, you show up, you do your duty, and that's what it is.
Any final thoughts before we wrap up?
I just want to say thank you to Tri-County Orthopedics. I think this has been a great opportunity. It wasn't what I thought it would be from the start, being in the walk-in clinic. I've been able to flourish as a PA here, and I think that they've done a great job of helping to care for me and my family over the years and the needs that I have, and allowing me the opportunity to be a professional within the practice. But I really do think that I've grown as an orthopedic PA here. And now at this point in my career, being able to provide quality orthopedic care to our patients, I have all the physicians and other PAs that I've learned from to thank for that. And also just my children and my husband being able to say thank you, that, to them I'm mom, but I'm also PA. And so I know that it really feels like family here. I really do mean that. I can't imagine working anywhere else.
Well, I want to thank you for coming on and sharing your story, and also thank you for your service. And I think that's all the time we have for today. So thank you, Cameron.
Thank you.
If you enjoyed today's episode, be sure to subscribe so you never miss an update. Don't forget to share the podcast with others who might find it helpful, and follow us on Facebook and Instagram at Tri-County Orthopedics to stay connected. Thanks again for tuning in, and we'll catch you next time.